So you'll do great in neurology if you can figure out how to localize lesions, but you can't play that game unless you know the rules. And one of the main rules you need to figure out is how to tell apart an upper motor neuron lesion from a lower motor neuron lesion. So let's figure that out right now. So let's start with the somatic motor pathway. So remember, somatic is our voluntary nervous system, motor is for muscle movement. So the goal of this pathway is for the brain to send a signal down to our skeletal muscle for voluntary movement. Now the way that the signal gets sent all the way down is through a relay mechanism using two neurons. So the somatic motor pathway is also called the two neuron pathway. Since these neurons are for carrying out motor action, these are both known as motor neurons. The one that starts the process is called the upper motor neuron because it's the one that's all the way up in the brain. And then the one that grabs the relay and finishes the job all the way at the level of the skeletal muscle is called the lower motor neuron. So the way that it works is that the upper motor neuron starts in the primary motor cortex of the brain, and then it descends down through the brain, and then right at the end of the medulla, which is the base of the brain stem, right as the medulla transitions to the cervical spine, it crosses over, and fancy word for crossing over in neurology is called decussation. That means that it goes, let's say, from the left side to the right side. If it started on the right side, it would go to the left side. And then the upper motor neuron is going to keep continuing down the spinal cord in a tract called the corticospinal tract. The reason that it's called the corticospinal tract is because it starts in the cerebral cortex and travels through the spinal cord. And then once it gets down to the right level where the muscle is going to be innervated, this is going to synapse with the lower motor neuron. It's going to activate the lower motor neuron. So the cell body of the lower motor neuron is in a region of the spinal cord called the ventral horn. It's going to receive this input, and then the lower motor neuron is going to go ahead and just exit the spinal cord and head towards the muscle. And the region where it exits the spinal cord is the ventral root. So the difference between the ventral horn and the ventral root is that ventral horn is where the cell body of the lower motor neuron is. Ventral root is the route that it takes as it exits the spinal cord, and the rest of it is pretty straightforward because it's going to go straight to the skeletal muscle and activate it. So a quick recap, the somatic motor pathway sends the brain signal down to skeletal muscle for movement. It's known as the two neuron system. There's an upper motor neuron and a lower motor neuron. The upper motor neuron starts in the brain in the primary motor cortex, and as it's leaving the medulla, it crosses over to the contralateral side, travels down the spinal cord in the corticospinal tract. It synapses with the lower motor neuron at the ventral horn. That lower motor neuron exits the spinal cord at the ventral root, and then it activates the target muscle. And now if you understand the somatic motor pathway, go ahead and click the like on this video. Okay, so now that we know the pathway, let's learn this high yield topic, which is how do you distinguish a lower motor neuron from an upper motor neuron lesion? So both of these are going to present with muscle weakness or paralysis because one of your motor neurons is knocked out. But the key is figuring out where the problem is, so which neuron is affected. So let's start with the lower motor neuron. So this would be anywhere along the pathway of this blue neuron. So it could be at the cell body in the ventral horn, or as it exits through the ventral root, or all the way along its path of the axon. A lesion anywhere here is going to be a lower motor neuron lesion. So the key with a lower motor neuron lesion is that it causes flaccid paralysis. That means the muscle is limp, and that's because it's not getting any input from the lower motor neuron because the lower motor neuron is knocked out. So on your exam, this is going to present as decreased muscle tone, decreased or absent reflexes, and a negative or downgoing Babinski sign. The muscle is going to atrophy because it's not getting input from the lower motor neuron, and every once in a while it can twitch, and those are called fasciculations. Again, all of these is because it's not getting its input from the lower motor neuron. The muscle that's affected, it's going to be ipsilateral or on the same side of the lower motor neuron that's injured, and that should make sense because the lower motor neurons don't cross over. They just exit the spinal cord and go to the muscle on the same side that they are. So the side of the lower motor neuron is the same side as the muscle that's injured. And then finally, some of the high yield causes for these lesions are Guillain-Barré syndrome, polio, and ALS. So now let's talk about upper motor neuron lesions. So this would be a lesion that is in the upper motor neuron, which is either in the brain or in the corticospinal tract of the spinal cord. And then in contrast to the lower motor neuron lesion, this causes a spastic paralysis. That means the muscle has increased tone, it's spasming, and here's the reason why. So under normal circumstances, the upper motor neuron regulates and controls the activity of the lower motor neuron. So you can think of the upper motor neuron as the parent neuron and the lower motor neuron as a toddler. And all this lower motor neuron wants to do is constantly activate the muscle, but the upper motor neuron, which is the parent neuron, is regulating it and keep it under control. In this way, it's making sure that its activity and the muscle contraction is regulated, and this normal activity is known as central inhibition. What happens when you have a lesion in this upper motor neuron is that you no longer have this central inhibition of the lower motor neuron. So basically the parent neuron can no longer control the toddler neuron. So this lower motor neuron now is going to just constantly fire, And this is going to lead to a persistent contraction of the muscle, which is what causes the muscle to have increased tone and increased reflexes, including a positive Babinski sign, so the abnormal finding where the toe goes up. Now, since the muscle is still getting constant innervation by the lower motor neuron, it's not going to atrophy, so the bulk is preserved, and there's going to be no fasciculations in contrast to what we saw with the lower motor neuron lesion. As far as the side of the lesion, it's going to depend on whether the upper motor neuron lesion is in the brain or in the corticospinal tract. If it's in the brain, it's before the crossing over, so the lesion is going to be on the contralateral side as the muscle. But if it's in the spinal cord, it's going to be after the crossing over, so it's going to be on the ipsilateral or same side as the muscle. And then finally, the main causes of upper motor neuron lesions are stroke, tumor, MS, and ALS. And one high yield thing to keep in mind is that ALS is unique because it can cause both lower and upper motor neuron lesions. Okay, so now let's use what we just learned and apply it to localize a case. And I made this one pretty light just so we can focus on the main thing. So we have a 48-year-old woman that's presenting for right-sided extremity weakness, so right arm and leg weakness. On her neuro exam of the right arm and leg, we have 0 out of 5 strength. So basically, she's paralyzed in her arm and leg. So that means that she has significant motor weakness. So we know that we're dealing with a motor neuron problem. So this could be an upper or a lower motor neuron problem. We don't know yet. But the rest of the exam tells us that she has increased muscle tone and a positive Babinski. So this then helps us figure out that this is going to be a upper motor neuron lesion. So now we can use this information right here to help us answer the question of where's the lesion. So let's start with this first one. So let's start with option A, which is the right ventral root. So remember, the ventral root is how the lower motor neuron exits the spinal cord and goes to its target muscle. So this would cause a problem with the lower motor neuron. So this should give us lower motor neuron signs. So we can eliminate this. Next option is left ventral horn. So again, the same thing. Ventral horn is where the cell bodies of the lower motor neuron are. So if our lesion was here, we should get lower motor neuron signs. And also this is on the wrong side. The patient has right-sided weakness, so we can eliminate this as well. Now the two options that are left are both going to give us upper motor neuron signs, so we can't eliminate either of them based on that. That means the way we have to figure out the correct answer is based on the side of the lesion. So let's start with the corticospinal tract. The corticospinal tract is below the decussation or crossing over, so that means that a lesion in the corticospinal tract will give us ipsilateral weakness. So that means a left corticospinal tract would give us left-sided arm and leg weakness. So this is the wrong side, and so therefore we can eliminate choice C. So that means that choice D is the correct answer, a left primary motor cortex problem, and that makes sense because the primary motor cortex is above the decussation point, so a lesion would give us contralateral weakness. So a left primary motor cortex problem would give us right-sided weakness, which is what this patient has. So using your knowledge of the upper and lower motor neurons, you were able to figure out this case and localize the lesion. So to end this video, I want to leave you with this quick little clinical bonus about a caveat regarding upper motor neuron lesions. So we mentioned earlier that upper motor neuron lesion gives you spastic paralysis, and that is true, but there's a little bit of nuance here. So sometimes if you have an acute upper motor neuron lesion, especially in the setting of spinal cord traumas, this can actually lead to stunning of the spinal cord. Essentially, the entire spinal cord gets shocked. And so what this can cause is that it may actually cause an initial acute phase of flaccid paralysis. So basically, in that immediate period when that trauma occurred to the upper motor neuron, the patient will actually have decreased muscle tone and decreased reflexes. So it's going to look like a lower motor neuron lesion, even though it's an upper motor neuron lesion. And then over time, after a few weeks to months, the patient's going to develop the classic upper motor neuron pattern, which is increased muscle tone and increased reflexes. So the main punchline of this slide is that just be aware of this little nuance with upper motor neuron lesions, which is that sometimes in the immediate period, they may actually present as a flaccid paralysis and then over time develop into spastic paralysis. Okay, that's it and that's all. I linked a couple of related videos here so you can check it out. And if this video helped you, please give it a like, drop a comment, and share it with others. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date on new videos and posts. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.